Well, I will yell. All right, how many more are we expecting, Linda?
I think we can get started.
Okay. As I said earlier, I sent out an email to everyone that Kevin will be running late, and he asked me last week if I would chair until he gets here, so I will go ahead and do that. So I'd like to call the May meeting of the Mount Penn Preserve Partnership to order. First of all, did we receive any public comment either at Kevin's office or your office, Linda?
No, we did not.
No.
Again, I'm sorry. Did she say nothing?
No, nothing from our office.
Okay, fine. Next is the approval of the agenda and the minutes. The January 22nd meeting, 2020, and then of course the March 25th meeting was canceled. Linda has put out a full set of documents. Did you all have an opportunity to look at the meeting minutes from January? Are there any additions or corrections?
No, I didn't see any. This is Kim.
Okay, Kim, thank you. Hearing no corrections or additions, we'll accept the minutes as submitted. Next, we'll go to the treasurer's report. Kim, I know that it's in the packet that's been handed out. Why don't we go to that page?
Yes, sure. So I kept, since we canceled the last meeting, I kept that report as it would have been presented at that meeting, and then I have the new one for this meeting. So I actually have two separate reports. So I'll do the first one that would have been presented at the March 25th meeting. We had an opening balance of $11,430.83. There were no checks that went out in that time period. We had an additional $100 of calendar sales. Membership dues came in from 4 of the 5 entities, making a deposit total of $8,100, with an ending balance for that meeting of $19,530.83. I do at the bottom of that report also have a calendar sales summary. And so bottom line of that is we showed a profit of $809.60 for that calendar sales. So I don't know if we want to approve each one individually, Linda, or do you want me to go on to the second one and approve them all together?
Yeah, we can do them as a group.
Okay. So now the treasurer's report for May 27th has the opening balance of $19,530.83. There was a check for $250 that went out for the PA COG membership, which was an annual membership. We did not have any additional deposits, so we currently have a balance of $19,280.83. And at the bottom of this report, we have the Berks County Community Foundation, which had a beginning balance in January of $9,049.74. We had investment interest added of $13.87, leaving an ending fund value at the end of March of $9,063.61.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions of Kim of the treasurer's report? Hearing none, I would like to entertain a motion that the treasurer's report, consisting of 2 months of reporting, the March 25, 2020 and the May 27, 2020. Is there a motion to accept?
Linda moves.
Linda moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Report accepted. Okay, next item, item number 5 is reports and actions. First one is the Bamba upgrade rating to silver, working with Trail Solutions on evaluation of application. Does anybody have any insight as to where that is in the process?
It's my understanding from speaking with Fred that this, COVID pandemic things has things tied up a bit. Things have slowed down.
Yep. Okay. So no new news.
No new news on that.
Okay. Second item is payment of bills. Well, Kim's doing her job. She's paying them. Anything you want to add to that, Kim?
No, I don't have any that are outstanding at the moment.
Okay. Next is an update on the Mount Penn withdrawal. What I can say is that Kevin and I were going to arrange for a meeting or to sit with Mount Penn's council in the not too distant future and discuss in more detail their notice to us that at the end of this year they will be withdrawing from the Mount Penn Preserve. I know that no date has been set. Jess, is there anything more that you might be able to shed light on if Kevin has shared anything with you other than we're going to do that?
I spoke to Kevin this afternoon about it. Earlier this year, he arranged a meeting, but canceled it because it was their reorg meeting, and then was going to follow up, and then all of this happened, the pandemic. So Kevin said it is something that we have to circle back around to. He'll reach out to Tom Clonis and see what best avenue there is to discuss. I don't know if they plan on meeting in person. I know some boroughs and townships are doing that now, but Kevin's plan is to circle back around and talk to them.
Okay. My personal opinion is that I think it would be better that if we sat face to face, but of course we won't be able to do that until we get literally the green light. So we just have to play that by ear, but hopefully Kevin can maybe give us some insight.
Yeah, our office will reach out.
Okay. Okay. Next is update on Pagoda partying. Marcia, you want to tell us about all the parties you've been having at the Pagoda?
Yes, of course. It's my fun place to go. And I do social distancing. No, seriously, there's been a continued prevalence of loud music, people parking, people driving wrong directions, people speeding, and it's not the Pagoda. And I think it's really important that we not, even though the media might report it that way, it's not Pagoda specific. It's the whole length of Skyline Drive, where people have sought to drag race, gather at the different overlooks. They gather in the parking lot of the fire tower. And beyond just people enjoying it recreationally, there's people who see it as a place where they can change car oil, do work on their cars and such. That being said, the city is really willing to work with the Mount Penn Preserve to look at how we best can address this short-term and long-term. And I don't think it's going to be a simple solution. The fact that the city has committed funding to hire a security guard, they will be able to report to the police, but they're limited in their enforcement capacity, and they'll also be patrolling both City Park, we're having problems there too, and other city properties. So I would hope out of the Public Safety Committee of the Mount Penn Preserve that we can come up with both short-term and long-term ways to address the problem. It's not fair for the use of the preserve for this to be becoming more the norm. We've really lost control over the mountaintop as far as I'm concerned.
Anyone else on the line has any feedback or comments from their particular municipality or the issue of the partying in general? And it's not just partying per se. There's the activity of drag racing and doing donuts in the driveway in front of the Tory Gate and other mischief.
So I know that Don, and maybe he's going to jump on here, but I know that Don Pottinger from Lower Elsa sent an email earlier today. And I want to echo what he said was we're experiencing the same thing in Elsa's Township. There is an awful lot of increased trash being dumped. It's being dumped all along Skyline Drive. I know a lot of it's being dumped in Lower Alsace. We're getting it in Alsace as well. And then what happens is we get a phone call with, upset citizens saying, what are you going to do about trash? I mean, I think the last one I received, and Don can jump in here, but the last one I received, the person said it was probably 2 or 3 dump trucks full of trash on the side of the road. So I don't know how to handle that best. And certainly, our township of 3 public works employees, I mean, we don't have the wherewithal to pick dump trucks of trash off the street. So I'm interested in suggestions, ideas, and how we handle that.
Yeah, I can jump in on that. We actually had a contact, I guess, one of our residents contacted us on Tuesday, mentioned that there was a dump. I don't know what time over the weekend, but obviously it was a pretty significant one on Oak. And sure enough, then I got a follow-up email today that apparently as we were trying to address the first dump, they had sent up, there were several other bags of stuff that were dumped over pretty much in the same location. So, and I can tell you, we've had probably 5 or so calls just in the month of May. We've actually had one where a resident told us that they drove down a private lane and dumped it on their property. So we have been getting bombarded with this, and we've got 2 guys in our public works group. We have been reaching out to Steve Harity at the city, and I'll go on record. I've said it before in emails. Steve is a treasure for the city because he is extremely proactive. Whenever I've reached out to him about stuff like this or graffiti abatement, he has been Johnny on the spot. He gets right out there, cleans it up, addresses it. He's been working with our public works group to address some of these situations. But obviously, this is only May. We've got several more months of this, and I think that with the epidemic going on around here, I think you've got groups. I don't know if they're the owners of the property or if these are quote unquote contractors that are going out doing clean outs of apartments, and they seem to throw, I mean, there is furniture and everything else, carpeting that's in this garbage. So I think there are a lot of people who are cleaning out buildings, and then they, instead of getting a dumpster and throwing it in there, they take it up and use the mountain as a dump. So that's what's going on. And obviously, we've got the issues with all the traffic and those concerns up on Skyline. But then we also have people going up there late at night and dropping stuff off. And I know that both of these problems have been going on for years now. I think what we need to find out is whether it's done through the public safety group or whatever, but we definitely need to have some discussions on how we're going to address both of these, because I think it's, it seems to me that if you can go up there and dump and you can, do whatever, have horse races or car races or just sit up there and drink beer, it seems to be the problem is that there's not enough traffic up there to push these people off the mountain. So I don't know how to go about fixing that. Obviously, there's limited resources all the way around, but somehow or another, I guess this group needs to come up with a plan on how we're going to address that. And I know, Jim's sitting here, Jim Oswald, and he is definitely not in favor of closing off the pagoda to traffic. So like I said, I don't know what the answer is, but I think we at least have to come up with possible suggestions, how we can, as all of the group here, how can we work together, pool our resources to try and get something going on up there. But obviously it's May, there's a lot more months and a lot more nice weather coming up. It's going to get worse before it ever gets better.
And what I noticed is, I'm sorry.
Was that Marcia?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, Marcia, go ahead, please.
What I notice is there's so many different types of groups using it that they conflict with each other, in that now you have the informal car clubs, the racers up there, you have the bikers up there, some of them doing things respectfully, other times, and I got a report just really devastating the trails, which we always knew was a problem. And it's going to be a tipping point where dangerous things are going to continue to happen. And even though we're able to label it as the pagoda, I think it's really the whole mountainside. The dumping is an example of that. And as much as I don't want to close things off, what I feel would be helpful is if we could list the problems and then list the strategies and match the problems with the strategies. Which strategy is going to work to address which problem? Because it's not just one thing that is going to be a Band-Aid for all this. It's going to be really a multiple of strategies that we're going to have to put in place. And then also look at what the cost is associated with that.
What I was going to say was I made some notes here. There seems to be two areas of concern. The first one, as we're discussing, is the illegal dumping of waste and refuse on Mount Penn. And the second one is the unapproved and unpermitted events and activities. I joined Marcia up at the pagoda on Memorial Day, and I was scorned and looked down upon as I drove up Skyline Drive, because there seemed to be some sort of organized, quasi-organized bike race of some sort. There were teams in uniform, and there was a turn, the very first turn coming down from the pagoda into Mount Penn. And I got this nasty sneer, and there were people sitting in the island, and they were either timing or, having lunch or having a drink or whatever. And I said to Marcia, it's a lot of activity going on, and they probably don't have permits. So when I look at this at a higher level, and is there, we keep talking about, well, if we could get surveillance, if we could get patrols up there, and that seems to be an issue that is way above my pay grade. But are there illegal activities that these fall under that we can start to fine people? I know in order to find somebody, you have to catch them in the act. So it seems like a catch-22. And as Don said, this is just May. And once we get the green light and people can return to the new normal, God knows what kind of traffic is going to be up there and on the mountain itself. And obviously, it's going to take a lot of manpower. It's going to take a lot of funding to patrol, to be aware of what's going on. I don't know where to start other than do we need to go to the state through the county for funding to pay for police protection or police activity and increased patrols? It's pretty sad, Don, when you're reporting on people are throwing, sofas and building trash because it's easier to just take it somewhere where somebody thinks we don't see it. Wow, I have no idea where to go first. So I am.
Well, I think as far as the event, I was going to say, as far as the events up on the mountain, I think the first thing that has to happen is, one, there's got to be a presence up there, at least on some sort of a scheduled routine, that anytime you see an event like that, the first thing that should happen, I would imagine, is if you see there's bikes up there and it looks like an organized event, probably the first thing to do is call the police and have them determine, because the permits for these events do go through and are approved by different organizations. And I know the city police do see those permit applications. So they would know, first of all, if there really was a permit pulled, and if not, then whatever the ordinances are and the fines that you can hit these people with, I think that's the way you do it. I think the only way you're going to get compliance up there is, one, it's got to be a financial hit to these groups who decide to go up there and do this without a permit. And the only way to get that done is there's got to be some sort of a regular patrol along the mountainside just to get these guys identified that, hey, there's a group up there. They seem to be doing some sort of event and they don't have a permit. I think that's the only way to stop it.
Well,
Can I just
first
say
of all,
something
what
about
does
the
city have
bike
in
race
ordinance?
thing?
Just one at a time, please. One at a
Right,
time.
but when you're talking
Don, you have the floor.
can I go?
Lee, there was
Oh, no,
another person that
I'm
wanted to
done. Jim
speak.
Oswald.
Jim,
Yeah, Jim Oswald.
go
The
ahead.
question is, what does the city have in their ordinance as far as what constitutes a group of people?
Very clearly,
I mean,
our
if 5
city
people are
ordinance
riding
does
down
not
on a
allow
bike-
this, okay? Very clearly, there's no question. Am I correct,
no.
Linda? Linda,
What?
our city ordinance does not allow the kinds of gatherings that these bike races do. They need to be permitted special events.
Correct.
So I am not sure what happened on Memorial Day. I need to speak with some of the folks who did post some things. I thought it was going to be a virtual race. And basically, we would have a right to fine those organizations. They violated city ordinance.
Yeah, you need to remember
Okay, my
too.
question though is I'm sure.
Go ahead.
Can I finish what I was trying to say?
Okay,
Yes,
go on,
Jim.
Jim.
If your ordinance has, if you have 5 people that decide to race their bicycles down the mountain, that doesn't I don't think your ordinance covers 5 people.
No.
I know our ordinance in Lorouse's Township is like 100 people. So if 5 people decide to race their bicycles and somebody just decides to time them, that doesn't constitute a group. So you can't. What are you going to do about it? You can't fight them.
Jim, very clearly, what
people
I
with their loud
observed
music
violated
can
our
fight.
ordinance. I can tell you that, blank out. It wasn't just 5 people racing the bikes. It was an organized activity where people were timing. They had racing shirts on. There probably was over 50 bikes up there. They parked their trucks and stuff where they were loading the bikes at the fire tower. So this wasn't a minimal kind of activity. This wasn't people just racing, a couple people racing their bikes.
Okay.
down the
Well,
mountain.
initially when you
What's
Well,
that?
initially when you described it, you didn't describe it as 50 bikes, and that's what was
I didn't
questioning.
describe it.
So,
Another
okay.
person did, okay? I know what I saw.
I want to continue to just talk about this. I want to go through some of the other things. We can talk about this at the end because we've got to come up, I believe, with some sort of strategy, some sort of plan going forward sooner than later, where we can, head this off because it's only going to get worse. Both the trash dumping of waste and refuse and people using the mountain. It's a two-edged sword. We want them to use it, but then when they do use it, we want them to follow the, civil rules and regulations, and that's where we run into the issue of monitoring that. So let's move to the last of the reports and actions, the update to Mount Penn Trail Management. And it says, see environmental committee report and report from the city arborist. So why don't we hold that for that committee report? If there's no other new reports or actions taken, I'd like to jump to committee reports and recommendations. Finance and Capital is no report, but Linda, since you sit on that with Jeff, can you give us any idea as to where we think we are at that moment? I know there's some discussion. The last time we were together, Jeff was talking about a 1-year to 3-year or 5-year plan for capital projects. Do you know where that sits today?
That was approved, and that was budgeted in both the county and the city's budget.
Okay.
And I believe that was 20,000 over 2 or 3 years.
Okay. In your opinion, Linda, how do we implement that? What is the what's the process? Do the individual municipalities, members of the COG, do they come to the finance committee with a proposal to take a bite out of that 20K with something? How does that work? Is it just the municipalities, or could it be private interest groups that would like to do something?
No, that's for the use of the Mount Penn Preserve.
Okay.
That's for our projects, or our projects in coordination with what the city or the county may be doing.
Gotcha. So they're civic projects as opposed to something like a fundraiser for nonprofit.
Right, it's not that at all. Like, it could be used to fund the Public Safety Committee and the Environmental Committee have been wanting to do improved signage on the trails, so that
Gotcha.
that could be used for that. That could be used to help implement an improved internet connection between the fire tower and the pagoda, for better security cameras for the fire tower and the pagoda, things like that.
Yeah. There was, and Mark can weigh in on this, at one of our previous Pagoda Foundation meetings, there was discussion about, since the pagoda has been shut down, security has become more of a topic than before, because the Kaufmans are not up there on a regular basis. And I remember maybe a year or so ago, the Public Safety Committee had put together a budget with real bids for TV cameras, CCTV, and other methodologies of connecting to the police. Are they still? They're still in the file, aren't they, Linda? That there's something we could reference?
Yeah, there's still an active internet connection that both Central Berks and the Reading Police have 24/7 access to.
Okay.
And just, Lee, a clarification, the feed from the pagoda cameras was never monitored by the Kaufmans on a regular basis, okay? So they had access to that camera feed, but it never was something that they had the time to do. So it wasn't really that vibrant a way of monitoring the activity. Plus the lighting is so poor that you really can't see what's going on anyhow. It's not a very high resolution camera.
Yeah, we need to improve that camera and the internet connection between the pagoda and the fire tower. But
Okay.
I did recently remind the new police chief about that connection. So if someone calls in a complaint about activities at the pagoda, the desk sergeant has the ability to kind of check it out and see what the situation is before he sends someone up there.
Okay.
And that'll be helpful too when the security guards are on.
That's right. When does that start, Linda?
As soon as I think I signed the contract
Mm-hmm.
like a week or so ago. So I would say within 2 weeks to a month it should start. And they do have defined hours, but I forget what they are. It's like 7 to 7, something like that,
Okay.
in the evening.
Yeah. So 7 to 7, and they are not deputized, nor are they weaponized.
Not as far as I know. What they would do, if they see activities, they would report those activities to the police.
Got it.
And I would assume that since they've witnessed the deed, they would be able to be a witness in court and swear out a complaint.
All right. Anything more, Linda, with finance and capital?
No.
If not, we can move to promotions and marketing. Beth, your report is attached. Why don't we go to it, please?
Okay, can everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Quickly, I'll go through this report. So the first topic, just an update with the wall calendars for 2020. 170 calendars remain at the Planning Commission office for purchase. We have 141 calendars that are available at all of the municipalities in the COG, including the County of Berks, Bingham and Nature Center, the Reading Pagoda, Jakes of Mount Penn, Olsen Design Group, Berks Community Foundation, and Berks History Center. No funds have been collected at this point, in addition to what Kim has already deposited due to the pandemic. Everybody's kind of been closed, so I'm going to reach out to them after things kind of settle down and see where we're at. And then next meeting, we'll have a better report on the funding or any sales from those entities. Moving on to the geocaching event that was supposed to happen at the end of March, obviously was canceled. Good news with the event, there was 20 people registered by the beginning of March with still almost another month to go. So there was a lot of interest. I worked with the geocaching coordinator, Deidre Brown. She assisted with contacting who she had on her end. We had some RSVPs on our Facebook page, and we both worked on getting the cancellations and keeping everybody up to date as to what was going on. So the cancellation went smoothly, the RSVPs went smoothly. So at this point, it's just on hold until we're safe to do this type of event again. So we'll keep you posted on that as time goes on. Music on the Mountain, those discussions have also been put on pause at this time, especially with all the unknowns of what's going to happen in the future with music events and festivals with large gatherings. So at this point, we're on hold there. We did have one meeting other than the January meeting that focused predominantly on Music on the Mountain. In February, we did have our marketing meeting. We did have some priorities and goals that we were setting for 2020. One was a 2021 calendar. Donna Reed was going to take the lead on that. We also have in the works a Mount Penn Preserve brochure. Kim has taken the lead on that. The thought for the brochure, and Kim, if you want to jump in at all or correct anything that I'm saying, with the brochure, the plan is to get something out that would be digital as well as a hard copy that we would then be able to create like a template for it and then update as necessary from year to year as we see fit. So Kim's in the process of getting that set up, and then the marketing committee will do our input and we'll provide that to all of the COG so you all can review and comment, and then we can make corrections, and then we can have kind of a brochure to go about to educate everybody, which would be another piece that, you know, for these types of issues that we're having up there, to maybe highlight some things as to, you know, what the do's and don'ts kind of thing. The next goal that we have for 2020 is website migration. Currently, it's now being hosted on the county's end, but in order to do a lot of things such as having any type of sales, videos, and that kind of thing, it really needs to move off of the county end of hosting and move it to its own entity to be hosted somewhere else. With that, I have an estimate that is included in your packet of various entities for hosting the website, which is taking all the content that you visually see and putting that in a place outside of the county. That, of course, there's a cost associated with that, but you have the breakdowns there, and it's pretty clear the two front runners with the cost, and some of them are just really off the map there and outrageous, but just so you can see, there was 4 places that I researched. They're kind of the top dogs right now for hosting websites. So those numbers are there for you to see. Future marketing meetings, we're planning on having those virtually starting in June. We normally met at the Peanut Bar the second Thursday of every month. We're now going to meet virtually at, I believe, noon is the time that we're going to meet. So we're going to continue our meetings virtually. We can get some more things done that way. And, you know, the last couple meetings, just due to the pandemic and the learning curve of virtual meetings and such, we have not had one since. One other thing that I wanted to mention with the website, we do have the domain name, which is the mtpennpreserve.org. That currently is in ownership with Wes Stefanik, and he had reached out to us in the fall time about transferring that to the Mount Penn Preserve, which can be done. So the very first thing that would need to be done is that we can create a business account with the company that he had purchased the domain name from. So it's a free transfer into our organization. And then at that point, we still have, we have until May of 2021 to get that done. But I would recommend doing that sooner than later, just so that piece is done. And then the next part would be for the COG to decide with the migration, which company you want to go with in order to host all of the content. And then there might be a couple things that I need to do to kind of do some transferring there, but that's on my end, not on anybody else's. So the first thing is just getting that web domain from out of Wes's name into the Mount Penn Preserve. That would be my definite first recommendation. And that way we're good there. And then we can move on with the web hosting. One other thing that was not on the list that I did want to mention, all of these meetings are, these virtual meetings that are being recorded will be put up on the website, but it won't be housed on the county's website. It's actually a YouTube channel. So what I did was created a Mount Penn Preserve YouTube channel using our Mount Penn Preserve Gmail. I do have a shortened link for it, and I think that I don't want to try it, but you can share the screen. But basically, it's a Mount Penn Preserve. It's a channel already set up. It has our logo on it, all the information about the Mount Penn Preserve. And it also already has featured one video that was recorded by Mike Reinert of WFMZ regarding the Mount Penn Preserve back in April 2017. So it's to get it started, and then tomorrow, hopefully it will be seamless to take this recording and upload it onto the YouTube channel. We can promote that through the Mount Penn Preserve website and also the Mount Penn Preserve Facebook. And that's all I have to report at this time. If anybody has questions, please let me know.
I just have a comment not related to your report. I didn't want to interrupt. Kevin's not going to be able to get on the call. And I know I have to get off, and I believe Ashley as well has to pop off by 5. Ashley Showers. I don't really have anything to report, but if anyone has any questions for the county or for Kevin, feel free to give me a call or shoot an email to Kevin or I. I just wanted to throw that out there that I'll be disappearing off the call shortly.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Jess. What I wanted to add to the Music on the Mountain report, Beth, was that I spoke with and met with Dave Klein when I was up at the pagoda on Memorial Day, and he said, "Come here, let me show you." And he took me to the edge of the wall of the parking area just north of the pagoda, and he was pointing out to the various levels of grass and earth that are there. And he said that he can see where if we could clean out some of this brush, that there could be an opportunity for 200 plus people in his mind, and just a quick guest grab, that could be sitting out there in lawn chairs, and we could have a performance on the pagoda or on the grounds itself. We've always thought of the pagoda being a more intimate setting as opposed to a big band showmobile kind of thing with a stage. So he's still looking forward to it. But I think, like Marcia said, he is really focused on his Americana theme. So we'll have to work with him as we get closer to this. But he's still very excited. All right. If there's nothing else under...
Lee, can I ask a question?
You sure can.
Hey, Beth. Do you or anyone you know have experience with working with those different web hosts? I'm just wondering about, yeah, the different websites.
I personally have. I've worked with both SiteGround and GoDaddy. SiteGround's a Canadian company. Not that that makes any difference, but their customer service is great. They are significantly at a reduced cost when you look at them compared to GoDaddy. I feel that GoDaddy, I believe, is an American company. They, they pretty much have the monopoly, it seems like, on web hosting, but their prices really jump up after you get into a package with them. It may be less cost now, but later when you go to renew, it seems to really jump up. I mean, if you look at the price difference just with domain names, it's like $7 to $18 with SiteGround, but then with GoDaddy, it goes by dynamic pricing because they can count and see, how many people are hitting it. So that will increase the cost because they realize it's a more popular site than maybe another one. And as time goes on, you can be spending upwards to, 20, 30, and even more a year to renew that domain name. Whereas with SiteGround right now, it's a standard $18. You know, and they don't see that increasing anytime soon from what they had told me. Now, these numbers are from back in March. I don't know how much they've changed since March, you know, but I don't anticipate them skyrocketing much from this. But I have used SiteGround and GoDaddy. The other two on there I have not used, but both GoDaddy and SiteGround are pretty intuitive, you know, for creating websites.
Okay, thank you.
So this is Kim. I just have a quick question. Do you think, do you need a motion from us so you can at least move forward with Wes and get it and start that first process with that? Is that something we should be doing at this meeting?
Yes, I think at the very least we should be doing that. And then if everybody could look over the numbers and then maybe at our next meeting, decide if you do want to move on starting to migrate, because as time goes on and the more content that I'm uploading on the website, all of that has to be moved to another site. So the longer we wait, the more content and the more time that it's going to take.
Right. And so I guess I
that's
would,
something to consider.
I would add to what Beth is saying. One of the things that one of the frustrations that we have, the way it is right now, just so everybody understands, is the absolute only person that can get in there right now to do anything is Beth, because it's housed on a county website. So that means there's no one else, not even in the marketing committee or anybody else on the board, that can assist or do any of this work. So, you know, that's another reason that I think it's important that we get it out somewhere that can
Sorry
be
about that.
managed by more than just one individual.
No problem. I'm back on the trail. Okay. Beth, when I look at your page 2 of 2 of the website migration cost estimates, is there a number that we should be including in a motion as a not to exceed number for a year? Do we just add all this up? You know, what's your recommendation? I see $5.95 a month, $12.97 a month. You know, but we pick one of these 3 or 4, correct?
Right. That would be the ideal for the hosting, is to choose which one you would want to go with. It's for like the first one, SiteGround, it's like almost $250 just around it. That's for 3 years. So this wouldn't have to be revisited for another 3 years. I just gave you the breakdown of what it would be per month and per year. But it's a 3-year is standard for websites. Is like a 3-year package. So if you look, GoDaddy for 3 years, it's $467. So you purchase it for that price and pay that amount.
Okay. Of these 4, is there one that you feel the most comfortable with, that you have heard the most positive user experiences, that would put one above the other?
I have actually worked with 2 of them on there, and it's the top 2, SiteGround and GoDaddy. Both of them are fairly easy to work with. The template that you would visually see, it's called WordPress. Trying not to get too technical, but using that, SiteGround and GoDaddy are the top 2 to use that type of template to give you like a good professional look, and they can be customized. The other good thing is, like what Kim mentioned, more than one person can be maintaining it, which is definitely something to consider. It is more of a safety thing too. If something happens, God forbid, to me or anybody that would be working on it, you need to have somebody else there. And that's really important. Kim has access to our Gmail account as well as I. And that, I think, would be very important, that there would be at least 2 people that would have the ability to be able to go in and make any changes or anything in case somebody's not available. So it's just a safety net to have that as well. Either one of those companies I'm comfortable with personally. By default, I'm going to be the one that would have to migrate anyways, so it doesn't matter to me. I've used them both. I've worked in a couple different web languages, if you will, with each of those, and I'm good to go with whichever one you would choose.
Okay. My reason for asking is because I'm just wondering, in the spirit of fairness and transparency, if we sent a request for a proposal to both SiteGround and GoDaddy, that we would get apples to apples comparison. If you could write a basic outline of a specification of what we would be expecting, and then what would that dollar be? Because you say estimated, or if Kim would like, if we wanted to put a maximum number on it for a 3-year package, we could do that as well. So Kim, whatever you think makes the most sense, I will certainly follow your lead.
Well, I certainly having a not to exceed would be a good way to go. I think that would help me be able to clear it. I do believe, and Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, that you did put together a spreadsheet that sort of compares what services each one of these, because we talked about this separately, which services each one of these 4 companies offer, kind of trying to compare that apples to apples. I thought that you did do that.
Yes, I did. It's actually on that sheet. If you look underneath each one, there's a bullet point and it describes like what space you get, more the technical stuff, but what type of support you get, what type of monthly visitors you're allowed, all those kind of things. And these are all comparable to each other. So I actually spoke with each of these companies and got the information and then put it in here, and they are comparable to each other. So you're getting the same amount and of service, I guess you could say. I think one of the most important things is if you have a problem, the 24/7 support. I've worked with both of these, the top 2 companies anyways. From my experience, they have both been very receptive, very easy to get in touch with, and solved any issues that I've had within a matter of 20 minutes. So I'm comfortable with them, but they are comparable to each other. And those are the costs they gave me. And they call them estimates because it can change from month to month, is their disclaimer.
So I guess for today's meeting, my thought would be to vote on something to move Beth forward so that we can at least control this, as opposed to having Wes Stefanik have it anymore, get it in our name, and then we can leave the decision for which one of these 4 until we have our next meeting, when other people who haven't been able to join us can take a look at it. I mean, that will still work appropriately, right, Beth? We can.
Yes. It's not going to change anything in the front end. It's all going to be in the back end with getting that domain name into our organization's hands, basically. It's not going to change anything. Nobody's even going to know. It's just going to be moving over, the legalities of it. But that's it. And it's pretty fair. It's fairly easy for Wes to be able to do, as long as we have something set up with GoDaddy. And that's just for that web address name, what you type in to get to the website. That's what we're talking about. So that's very easy. I just need to set that up. It's not a big deal at all. And I can do that, and it'll be seamless.
All right. And there's no cost to that at all, right?
No, there won't be a cost for that, but there will be a cost the next year when we transfer it, if we decide to go with SiteGround, and I'm saying that in my mind because it is the one that is the lesser of the cost of all of it, of all the different.
Is there a benefit to moving it if we choose SiteGround? Is there a benefit to moving this right off the bat, right now, and just doing it all at once?
The domain name, moving it?
Mm-hmm.
It'll be more difficult for Wes to do that because,
okay.
And there will be a cost associated with it. It's free for Wes because he has a GoDaddy account, and that's where he purchased it. To transfer it to us and our organization, if we create a free username and password, basically, for GoDaddy. So if I have Wes transferred over to us, then we don't have to worry about anything. It won't be until the next year.
So then Lee, I mean, this is Kim again. Lee, I would say my recommendation, and I'll make a motion if you would like, that we move forward with the transfer from Wes Stefanik to the Mount Penn Preserve, the domain name, so that we can at least stay in that GoDaddy platform and then defer the second decision until our next meeting.
Okay, the motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Linda.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Linda. Is there any discussion? And since Danica Patrick was my favorite IndyCar driver, I certainly have no problem. So all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Beth, very good job. Thank you. Why don't we move next to the Public Safety Committee? I know Linda is here, and of course, Don is still here. So would you guys want to just take us through the report, please?
What I've given you is a progress report that looks on what we've accomplished since 2017 when we first started meeting. We've concentrated mostly on the partying at the pagoda problem and a bit on the dumping. But with that partying at the pagoda thing, a number of things spun out of that. And that was the mutual aid agreement between the City of Reading Police Department and Central Berks. That's in place. The providing the security camera access to both the Reading Police and Central Berks. And then we determined, or I think it was mid last year, of the need to shift that lane of the southbound lane of traffic from the west side of the Rock Island to the east side of the Rock Island to prevent it from flowing through the parking area of the pagoda. At one point, Ralph agreed that that would be the right way to go, but he said that we needed to do a traffic study first, and we needed to wait until the administrations changed in order to make that happen. So that's where we are.
May I just speak up real quick? This is actually from the Planning Commission.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yep. Real quick, I added to the chat, which you should be able to keep a recording of that. Just some points that I was going to bring up, but like I said, I do have to get off the call. But my points are related to various agenda items you all were discussing. And if you, if anybody wants to reach out to me, just look at my email. You can either ask Linda for it and she'll give it to you, or Beth can give it to you as well if you can't find it on Linda's agenda email. Because I don't want to put that on the Zoom thing, but. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right. I think the last report we have is the environmental report. Let me get to that page.
All right, that's page 14. It looks like Matt, oh, Matt's still there.
Matt needed to take a break for a second.
Yeah.
He will be back. Here he comes.
Okay. All right.
Matt is back.
Is it time for environmental land use?
Go ahead.
Okay. So first, I just wanted to say one thing about the biking event on Monday. That was a part of the Rad Sport month-long fundraising event.
Right.
And I don't know if about the whether or not they needed a permit for that day. I don't think that is of all the concerns that you guys brought up, which I think are really important about the dumping and the drag racing in particular. I don't think unauthorized cycling events is really a big problem on the scale of those other things. I think that again that was really a fundraising event for the Reading Recreation Committee, and maybe more people showed up than they expected, and that was part of the issue there. But again, I don't think that's really a chronic problem. To get to the environmental report, I think one there were some emails that went out about the grant application for the large-scale trail assessment and planning, and it looks like that's not going to happen until next year at the earliest. So And that's really what our committee thinks is needed long-term, just as that was an essential step for the Antietam Park section of the preserve. That's really something that's needed for the preserve as a whole, to be able to assess the environmental and sustainability issues about what trails really should be preserved and what should be shut down and restored to the natural habitat, and how to do that effectively. But we still would like to do something in the short term in terms of trail management. So I tried to brainstorm a couple ideas. I mean, one, certainly, we had already talked about doing some cleanup volunteer issues, and of course, with the pandemic, we weren't able to do that. We still need to do that, and as we were talking about with the dumping, that's partly something that's beyond the scope of what volunteers can do with the sort of large items that have been dumped up there. It's not something we can expect volunteers to safely remove. So a bigger cleanup event needs to happen, and I think it can be a sort of combination of, hopefully, if we have the money or resources to do it, to have some professional cleanup, but also have volunteers tackle some of the smaller things. So that should be a priority as soon as it's safe to do so and we have the resources to do so. In terms of the navigability of the trails and sort of trying to steer traffic onto trails that are sort of well marked and easier to navigate, I came up with a proposed sort of simplified hiking trail map that would sort of connect all the sections of the preserve without creating any new trails. Obviously, there are too many trails, as we talked about before already, but it would just be sort of connecting several of them, blazing them a color that people could follow from one location to the next, without having to sort of memorize along many trail names or many turns. And that was included on the report. Some of them are already in existence. The Gravity Trail, Burke's Nature already maintains. The Ferndale Trail has been there a while. There's a white trail from Oak Lane up to the pagoda. But I had a couple other ones that I thought we could connect. One that would also go from Oak Lane, but all the way out to Antietam Lake. And again, those trails already exist. It would just be a question of painting markers, blazes on them, all a consistent color, so one could sort of move from one trail to the next and follow them from that location to the other. And the other would sort of intersect with that trail and go past the fire tower and to the pagoda. And so if we were to get the permissions to do that, I could sort of get volunteers together to go out and sort of blaze those existing trails, and then design a map to sort of correspond with the blazes. That would be something that we could put on the website and something that we could put at the trailheads. It would just be easier for visitors of the preserve to use and follow without having to necessarily use an app on their phone, or where they could go out and look around without getting lost. The other idea for a trail was the Pagoda Trail idea, which was to have something that actually went from the city up to the pagoda via City Park and via existing trails that go from like Walnut Street up by the peace sign up to the pagoda. Again, if we just wouldn't require building anything new, it would just be coming up with some sort of sign, whether that was a logo that was painted or a little medallion that we put on trees and street posts or something, or things that we just painted on the sidewalk or whatever, that people could sort of follow from along Penn Street through City Park, up Walnut Street, all the way up to the pagoda if people wanted to do that. So that was another idea that I had, and I'm trying to see if there's anything else. The other issue is just a bunch of trees that had been knocked down on the northern end of Oak Lane between Oak and Skyline. And I think Lester had chimed in that that was a utility company that knocked those trees down and just left a big mess there, which had wiped out a trail that went through there. And that he was going to get in touch with that utility company to try to get them to clean up all the debris.
I provided him with the contact information of the utility company late this morning.
Great, thank you. That's all I have.
Anything else, Mark?
It's Matt.
Matt.
I'm sorry, excuse me, I beg your pardon. Can you shed any light on the additional text there from the city arborist and that the map behind it, Matt?
The map I created, it was the simplified hiking map that I was talking about before. That would, it has on it 3 trails that are already sort of longer blaze trails and 2 proposed trails, which again, the trail itself already exists. It would just be sort of blazing and connecting them and putting out a map to make the trails a little bit more navigable to visitors who are hiking the mountain who aren't really familiar where they're going. So that's something that I would like.
Is there a map that exists now, either created by another entity, an NGO or another non-for-profit, that shows the current trail geography of what's where now?
Yes.
Yeah, there are a number of them. Bamba probably put out the most comprehensive one. But the issue is there are so many trails that when you look at those maps that Bamba and other organizations have put out that try to be comprehensive and cover everything that's up there, it's just so overwhelming. And some of those trails are marked and some of them aren't, and some of them are named and some of them aren't. That sort of visitors, if they were to look at that and go up there, it can be sort of a little overwhelming and a little hard to use. And so I was trying to come up with something that was simplified and easier to navigate, and would try to direct traffic onto a few well-selected, well-maintained trails that would just be easier for people to use, and wouldn't require an app. Like now, what we're doing is what BAM is doing anyway, is recommending that people use this Trailforts app, which is really great. But not everyone wants to be looking at their phone every 5 minutes when they're going for a hike, or wants to download an app to be able to go for a hike in the woods. And this would be something that would just be a little easier to use.
The old-fashioned way.
Right.
If I could just jump in real quick, the Planning Commission for the master plan for Antietam did all of GPS'd all of the trails in Antietam Lake Park. Some of them have since been closed due to species of concern with flora and fauna. So that has happened since we had done that. There's been numerous other trails created. I've gone up there in GPS some. I've gotten some from Berks Nature. I digitized everything from Bamba's bike map. There's probably about 2% that I couldn't even find using various aerials from Bamba's map, but I did get most of those in there. I have mapped about 48 miles of trails right now, but the concern is with any map, and this I just like to stress, if there is another map created, please get in touch with our Department of Emergency Services, because the concern is that somebody, God forbid, has an accident, needs to call 911, and they're referencing a map that DES has no idea even exists, and that's always been a problem. So I would hope that if anything gets done with additional trails or anything, that they are just included in that, so they're aware that there is yet another map if there's going to be one created. But the other thing too that I'm thinking when I'm hearing all this is, once this trail assessment happens, I would be very surprised if all of those trails are going to continue to stay open based on those assessments. I mean, we don't know for sure, but that's just something that I'm kind of thinking when I'm hearing that more trails might be created or closed. I don't know. I just want to kind of throw that out there for food for thought, I guess.
Yeah, certainly if we did go out and blaze all these, certainly that assessment could come back in a couple of years and say, you know, you really shouldn't have people on this part of the park or something like that. And we would have to, you know, reblaze or reroute or, you know, make alterations. but we just don't know if or when that's ever going to happen at this point. And I feel like it'd be nice to be able to do something to make what is up there a little bit more accessible for folks.
All right, very good. Anything else? All right, hearing none, there's one more item before we go to adjourn, and that would be under new business. Is there anything that anybody wants to bring before the group this afternoon to discuss, to think about going forward? One of the things that I want to do, and I'm going to talk to Kevin about this, is I'd like to take our fall meeting and think of it as a retreat. Because of what's happened to us this year with the pandemic, and many things have been put on hold and our lives have changed. There's a lot of activity. These reports are absolutely dynamite in terms of we're getting ready, we're getting ready, we're getting ready. Well, now we got to do. And I'd like to ask if Kevin would consider having a weekend retreat, like maybe a Friday night and a Saturday, so we can plan 2021 to get these committees active more than they are now. But also, one thing that has been concerning to me is that we don't have a mechanism for fundraising, for raising operating funds for capital projects. We do have the municipalities that are a part of this, but I think that we should discuss the possibility of creating a fundraising committee, if you will, to start to seek funds. And of course, the key to fundraising is, well, what are you going to use the money for? And I think the finance committee has started, obviously environmental with the trail situation, and the need to organize and codify the trails that we have, and other public amenities is going to take some coin to develop, design, and implement. So I'll bring that up to Kevin over the next couple of days. Is there anything else anybody has that they want to bring to the table this evening?
Yeah, Lee, it's Marcia.
Yeah.
Okay, we all understand with the current constraints we're facing that we can't have activities as we normally have at both Pagoda and also the fire tower. However, if anything unique becomes available or is planned, I will be informing all members of the Mount Penn Preserve. I can't say anything more at this point, but we're looking at opportunities where we can observe social distancing, but still have some vibrant events for the community.
Okay, great. Good deal. Good deal. All right, anyone else, please? Hearing none, our next meeting is scheduled for July 22nd. We will see if we can meet in person. That's quite a long ways away. So that's where we're at. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Thank you all very much. I apologize for my computer not being a good person to work with. I'll have to see what the hell the problem is. So, Linda, thank you for hooking me in on your phone. I appreciate it. Take care, everybody. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Last Zoom meeting for today.